Hi, I'm Tony Wallace with Kunes Auto Group, and welcome to Kunes Car Convos. Today we're driving around with Doug with Vantage Mobility in their Toyota Sienna wheelchair accessible vehicle. We're here with Doug from Vantage Mobility. He's going to tell us a little bit about these beautiful vans that they have to offer to us.
I appreciate the opportunity. Well, you guys have a whole lot of dealerships right along this stretch here, right?
Yep.
How many dealerships in total?
45?
45. That's one of the major reasons that attracted us to reach out to Kunes, is because you have such a reach within the state of Wisconsin, Illinois, and even into Iowa. There's not a whole lot of choice for the disabled right now, and you guys have so many locations that it'll make it a lot easier for them.
Perfect. Can you tell us a little bit about these vans?
Sure. Right now we're riding in a Toyota Sienna, and that is actually our #1 van that we convert. We work closely with the Toyota engineers to design our conversion to make it wheelchair accessible. We also do the Honda Odyssey, and we convert the Stellantis product, the Chrysler Pacifica, and the Voyager as well. Our factory is in Phoenix, Arizona. We are a veteran-led organization. The vast majority of our senior leadership is former military officers, and veterans have a special spot in our heart. They're one of our largest customers, but what we do is we take the vans that we get from Toyota or from Honda or Chrysler, and then through a very intricate process, we remove everything inside the vehicle, and then we cut away the floor and then weld in our own floor that's about 14 inches lower than the original one. And then our floor also has a ramp that comes out, deploys, so that a person in a wheelchair can just roll up in the ramp, come into the vehicle, and there's a lot of open space, and they can get into either the front driver's position or the passenger position. We've been doing it for about 40 some years. We're one of only 2 in the country that are authorized by Toyota, Honda, and Stellantis, and we're the only ones that do the all-wheel drive from Toyota.
That's just great, though. You can offer all-wheel drive to our customers, especially in this
It is pretty popular up in Wisconsin, Illinois, and Iowa, especially with the weather that we've been having recently. Although it's a beautiful, almost spring day here today.
Can you tell us what makes your conversion better than some of the other ones that are out there?
Sure. The #1 or the original style of converting a lowered floor minivan was to bolt in a ramp inside the vehicle, and it's called a bifold ramp. It folds in half, and then to deploy that ramp, you push the button and it folds out, and the person in the wheelchair can get on and into the vehicle. We took a look at that style and saw that it had some inherent flaws in it. First of all, I'm only 5'6". So for me, sitting in the front row in a vehicle, it really doesn't matter that much because I don't need the space in my legs. But somebody like yourself, who's a little bit taller, with that ramp mounted in the midsection of the vehicle, you can't put your front row seat all the way back, and you certainly can't recline it because the ramp gets in the way. Also, we like having the ramp in the floor for a lot of different reasons. The seat, like I mentioned, but also, even though it has been proven safe, and I won't say that it isn't because we also do a fold-out style, but having a 50-pound ramp inside the cargo area is not the most convenient or the safest thing, especially in like a side impact collision. Our vehicles, like for example our Honda Odyssey, actually test stronger and safer in the crash testing than do the non-modified because of the additional strength that we have in the steel of the ramp and our floor for a side conversion. And The last reason that I think that our design is superior to the fold-out style is every inch of space in a wheelchair accessible van is important. Wheelchairs are getting bigger, they're getting heavier, so any bit of space that we can save inside means that it's more maneuverable for the person in the wheelchair. Vantage Mobility actually has, we've trademarked the term Access 360. Most of the powered wheelchairs that are out there today, they're a mid-wheel drive chair, and you can get into our vans and do a 360 turnaround without having to do like a 5-point turn to come up and get into the front row seats. One other feature that's exclusive to the Vantage Mobility product line is the seats that we're sitting in are interchangeable.
That's great.
Everybody else's, you have a passenger seat and a driver's seat, and that's it. And the reason that's important is if you have more than just the disabled person driving the vehicle, well, if you're going to set out, you have to decide who's going to do all the driving. Because if somebody's going to be driving from their wheelchair, then you remove the driver's seat and you leave it at home. With ours, you can switch and interchange those seats and share the driving duties, which makes it a lot more user-friendly for families and husband and wife situations.
So you can take the front seats and mount them in the back?
No, these front seats, the one that you're sitting on the driver's side, can sit over here on the passenger side and vice versa.
Okay.
We have worked with the engineers from all three companies so that when you unplug from the ECU of the vehicle, when you plug it in on the other side, it recognizes that it's not in the right position, so it will turn off the side airbag so it won't deploy and hit your passenger when you don't want it to. So it's cooperation that we've had with Toyota, Honda, and Stellantis that allows us to do that.
That's great. Now you mentioned you crash test rate these. How did they stand up compared to other manufacturers?
We use a lab in Burlington, Wisconsin that actually does, it's called MGA. They do our independent testing, and it's one thing that for some reason I haven't quite figured this out. NHTSA, or the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration, does not require crash testing of modified vehicles, but we do it because we don't think it would be appropriate to put a vehicle out on the market if it hadn't been properly crash tested and meet all the standards that the OEMs have to meet. There are a few manufacturers out there that do their own self-testing, they self-certify. I'll leave that up to the consumer to decide if that's enough. We like having the third-party independent lab put their stamp of approval on it and say that it meets Toyota standards, it meets Honda standards, it meets Chrysler standards.
So that's great that you actually are going to the national or the manufacturer standards for the crash test ratings. Yep. Rather than just doing it yourselves and making a decision on your own if it's acceptable or not.
Yeah, safety is of utmost concern. Our customers in wheelchairs are very conscious, I would say even more conscious of safety inside the vehicle, and we want to make sure that the vehicle that we provide them, and plus working with our dealers, we certainly don't want to add any level of liability or exposure to our dealers, so we make sure that we meet all of the different standards. You know, the industry changed a lot in the early 2000s. It used to be the dealers were doing a lot of the work of raising the roofs and lowering the floors, and that just doesn't happen anymore. That's all on us as the manufacturer, the modifier, and the dealers just retail it and put maybe a set of hand controls or a wheelchair tie down onto it. There's not the level of structural modifications that used to be done 20, 30 years ago.
Now, can you give us a little history on VMI or Vantage Mobility?
Sure. Vantage Mobility, like I said, we're based in Phoenix, Arizona, and we've been around for about 45 years. And we've gone through, we were started by a family that saw a need for some more choice within the wheelchair accessible van market. They had capital to start a business, and they started a nice little business. It's strange to think about a vehicle modifier or a vehicle company in Arizona and not in the Midwest. I'm originally from Michigan, so that seems to be the center, but this family had a lot of experience and a lot of background, and they had the financial resources to start the company out there, and they were the first ones to come up with the design of the in floor. And that's what really set Vantage apart. What helps keep Vantage different and thriving in the market today is our attention to the detail and the focus on the aesthetics of the van. We want to make sure that, first of all, obviously a wheelchair accessible van has to work. The clients depend on that ramp coming out and the vehicle lowering so that they can get in and out. But one of the things that we've heard over the years from our customers or the end users is they want a vehicle that looks like everybody else's. Doesn't stick out, doesn't make somebody say, oh, there goes a wheelchair van right now. So our engineers work closely with those from the OEMs and make sure that we maintain the aesthetics. If you look at this vehicle from the interior or the exterior, it really doesn't jump out and scream that it's a modified vehicle. We try to make it look just like it did when it came off from the Toyota line. Right down to the little details where we have to raise the body to make room for the lowered floor. And we've actually covered that gap in the wheel areas, not only for aesthetics, to make it look more OEM, but also to prevent the air gap that happens and reduce your fuel efficiency. So that's one of the things that has always separated Vantage from the competitors, is our vans just have an aesthetic appeal that I think is superior to the others out in the market.
Now, what does the future hold for you guys? What is some new products that you're looking to do or anything like that?
One of the things that's changing in our industry is the vehicles themselves are becoming so complex that, ask anybody who used to do their own oil changes or used to do their own routine maintenance on their vehicles. You just can't do that anymore. Everything's computer driven, and with the introduction of the hybrids and the electric vehicles, the vehicle itself has gotten really, really complicated. So the goal of our engineers and the mission that they've really taken on is to keep our conversion just as simple as possible. So we're actually taking some steps back in simplicity so that, we have tapped into the ECU, or the electronic control unit of the vehicle. Starting with the 24 model year, we're no longer going to do that. And it's going to make the maintenance and the upkeep of our conversions just so much easier, because in the past, if there ever was an issue, there was a concern on whether it was a Toyota issue or whether it was a Vantage issue. Now it's going to be real clear. You have two different pendants. If you push this one and it doesn't work, it's a Toyota issue. So there's no more confusion on that. So that's one of the major changes that's happening in our industry. And dovetailing right along with that is kind of the reason that I'm here today and I'm talking with you from Kunes Automotive Group, is that since we, the manufacturer, are doing all the modifications now, and we're no longer asking dealers to have to do the modification, and since the most complicated part of the vehicle is going to be the vehicle itself and no longer the conversion, we truly believe that the future of this industry is going to be bringing wheelchair accessible vans to the masses, to the public, through traditional auto dealers like yours. And the wheelchair van customer no longer is going to be relegated to a business that's only open these certain hours, and they may have to drive a very long time. There's only about 300 of those dealers nationwide, and it's not really convenient. They don't offer weekend hours. There's a lot of things that you bring to the public that the wheelchair customers never had, that we truly think is going to be the trend and the difference coming up in the industry.
Now, with electric vehicles coming out and becoming more and more prevalent, most of these vehicles have batteries underneath the whole vehicle. How are you guys going to address that situation with an in-floor ramp?
It is clearly a challenge. That's a nice stop by this guy. It is clearly a challenge with the changes that are going on with the chassis and the transition to the electric vehicle for our engineers. But there's a couple things that make it workable and advantageous even for Vantage. One is that our engineering staff has been with Vantage for a long time. Steve Yu, which his last name has like 25 characters in it, so I don't even try and pronounce his whole last name, but Steve Yu has been with us for 25 years. And he's our director of engineering. So he understands from a lot of experience the challenges that we face and what we have to overcome. And our relationships with Toyota, with Honda, with Stellantis allows us to work with their engineers, work with them on the design. I won't pretend that they take input from us, but they will allow us to peek in, give us what's called bodies of white, and give us sample vehicles to work with and to design around, so that when they do come out with the hybrid, with the electric vehicle, we have time to overcome those challenges and come up with a conversion that will work for the public.
Now, most of the vans that we've seen from you so far are all side entry vans. Are we looking at getting a rear entry?
Absolutely. We just started releasing the 2024 Toyota Sienna rear entry van off from our production line. Again, that was a long collaboration with our friends at Toyota, and that has some really neat features in that for the commercial market, that van comes out of our factory ADA compliant. The ramp is wide enough, the height is open high enough. The only thing you need to add is some fire extinguishers and a reflective triangle, and you've got an ADA compatible product. The advantage of the rear entry, a lot of families like that option. Mom and dad can sit in the front row, and then their disabled child, the child in the wheelchair, can sit right in the mid row. It's a lot less expensive. It's a fully mechanical conversion, so there's very little to go wrong because everything is just mechanical, not integrated with the ECU. And those, we're expecting a lot out of our Toyota, especially with the fuel efficiency of the hybrid, the reputation of the Toyota brand for a long-lasting vehicle, and the width that we have that for the accessibility on that. You know, one of the reasons that we feel that it's a really good relationship with Kunes is the reputation that you guys have in the communities. Serving the wheelchair community, serving the disabled community really has a good feel to it.
Yeah,
It really does, to help. You know, I've been doing this for 25 years that I've been in the wheelchair accessible van market, and to see the look on people's faces when you help bring their independence back and they can go out and, you know, I can't tell you how many vans I've delivered where I ask the question, where's the first place you're going? And, you know, often I get an answer like, well, I'm going to Culver's, because I haven't been to Culver's. The only time I get out is to go to the doctors, or I'm going to church, or, you know, I'm going to go visit my grandkids. It's things that you and I take for granted, and people who don't have the freedom of an accessible vehicle, just they're so appreciative of the help that we can give them, and when we can get them into their vehicle, it just changes their outlook on life.